So I hope you guys enjoy that intro as much as I did. I honestly love this car, and I'm super lucky that I get the opportunity to actually drive it like it's supposed to be driven. But for this detail, we're going to be doing the engine bay, the inside, the outside. And the main reason is because this car is going to be sold at auction because prices are insane right now, and the owner wants to get rid of it while prices are high to make some money back on it. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be detailing it to get the CR up as high as possible. So that's the condition report number on car auctions, and the higher and closer it is to 5, the more money you can get for the car. So that is why we're going to be going into all of the nitty gritty, all the different nooks and crannies underneath the hood, the engine bay, everywhere inside this car to make it look as clean and as new as possible. Now for underneath the hood, I'm just using quick detailer, but for any of those oily spots around like any filler caps or on any of the fender wells on inside of the engine bay, I'm using an all-purpose cleaner diluted, and along with my detailing brushes that you guys can pick up at foxclean.com to get those areas all cleaned up and ready to go for auction. One little trick, and this car in particular, I'm not dousing the entire engine bay with water because one, it's not super dirty, but by just using the all-purpose cleaner and the brush, I can get into all these ECM little grooves and any other parts of the car. But one trick that you can do when you have extra liquid sitting there that's hard to get to with your towel, just use your vacuum to suck up that excess fluid and then wipe it clean afterwards. That's one trick that you guys could utilize, one on any side, anywhere inside your car, but also inside your engine bay.
I pray the Lord that I wake again. I wake again. I pray the Lord that now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord that I wake again. I wake again. I pray the Lord that I wake.
Now I would have preferred to take off this plastic engine cover that covers the turbos and the actual V8, but this engine cover in the Lamborghini Urus is actually built into the top of the car. The intake snorkels are mounted to it, and then the filler cap for the oil is actually got a snorkel to the engine from there. So it would have been a lot more complicated to remove, and to be honest, underneath it is probably not super dirty because you guys can tell that this engine is just a little bit dirty. Even though it has 45,000 miles on it, it's fairly clean. It just needs a quick wipe down and kind of use your brush to get into those little areas that are hard to get it all cleaned up. Now, I've mentioned not to wash your car in the direct sunlight, but sometimes you have no way to not do that. So in this case, I'm pressure washing the outside, getting as much of the debris and dirt off of it as possible just with the pressure washer, especially inside those wheel wells. And then trying to get it as washed as quickly as possible before any of that water dries, leaving water spots or, drying out that soap once we get to that stage.
I wake again, I pray the Lord that now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord that I wake again. I wake again. I pray the Lord that I wake.
Before we even get to washing the outside, I always like to start with the wheels first. So I'm spraying my wheel and tire cleaner onto the wheels thoroughly, let that sit, and by the time I go around the entire car and get back to that first wheel, it's sat long enough to then begin scrubbing it with my brush on the outside wheel, and then actually going into the actual wheel well and into the fender well to get that cleaned. There's several tools that I use when it comes to wheels. I have my detailing brushes, I have my wheel well brush, and this is actually a bristle brush on a stick essentially. I have a softer bristle brush that has a plastic handle for cleaning the actual painted wheel face. And then I also have another brush that I use to scrub the outside tire to make sure I get into all of those little lettering and all those different little grooves that tires have on the faces of them to make sure I get all of the spots completely cleaned. If you are cleaning your own wheels yourself, make sure you scrub the outside faces with a harder bristle brush, because you'll be surprised with how much dirt will come off. And when you put on your tire dressing later on after you wash the car, it does make a huge difference with how long it lasts, how nice it looks, and how black and brilliant and like new those tires look if you scrub them thoroughly. Like I mentioned, I am detailing out in the sun, so my assistant Seth is helping out with washing the other side of the car and getting those wheels clean for me after I did this side. And I'm going to start using my 2-bucket method in my wash mitt to scrub the outside of the car and get that dirt and all that grime off the surface of the car by starting with the top of the car and working my way down.
And the reason why we're not using the foam cannon is because this actually is broken in here somewhere, so this is pretty much worthless.
And I know I've talked about in the videos in the past and asked you guys for, your recommendations on pressure washer, and now it is officially time to retire my Sun Joe and get a new one, because you can see all the water dripping out of the handle because, like I mentioned, the tube is completely cracked and broken. So yeah, a new pressure washer is definitely in the works, and I'll let you guys know in the next video when I get it which one I picked up. Now for the drying process of the car, I used my super thick microfiber towels. These drying towels kick butt, and I'm gonna have them back in stock hopefully in the next 45 days or so. I have a bunch on order, but to be honest, once I open up pre-orders, I recommend you guys pick them up as fast as you can, because these things sell out super quick. And honestly, one towel will dry the entire vehicle. So definitely make sure you got your notifications turned on so you guys know when all these come back into stock. That way you guys can pick them up and order them, because they're amazing towels. And like I said, one towel like this will dry the entire car top to bottom. Now some of you are probably starting to freak out because you think I'm using the same towel on the paint, but I always dry the paint first, and then I use the same towel to dry the wheel faces and the tire faces before I apply my tire sealant. So Don't worry, the towel gets used in 2 different spots in the right sequence and order, with the paint first and then the wheels, so don't worry. But for the tire gel, I'm just applying it to my applicator pad, and then I'm scrubbing the outside face, and then I use my detailing brushes to get into that lip between the tire and the actual rim to make sure I get a complete thorough application. Now, since we are doing both the exterior and interior, I always start with the exterior and then go to the inside of the car. And then the next step before we get inside is to wipe down all the door jambs, wipe down around the doors, make sure all of that grease and grime that kind of gets built up and dirt in those areas completely cleaned off before we get to the inside of the car.
I kill my fill 3 times a day. These ethanol fuels won't make me sober. One flame to take the pain away. I caught you lighting matches in the back room. Haters look mad when they pass you. Let's talk about round when it's past 2. Reach a glass, do no. You don't gotta fight alone. You don't gotta fight alone. Don't be so personal. I'm going under.
Now, because this car has a clean wrap on it and it's brand new, there's really not any clay barring that needs to be done. There's no polishing that can be done because it is just a vinyl wrap, but we are applying a spray-on ceramic coating just to kind of help make that luster of that flat matte gray shine a little bit more, but also protect it for the future owner. Now with the outside done, it's time to move inside, remove all the floor mats, any child car seats like this one, any dirt, any coins, any trash, anything like that that'll get in the way from vacuuming the carpet, and kind of assessing what needs to be done to the inside of the car.
But we still wake up from our sleep. I'll be home soon. You don't gotta fight alone. You don't gotta fight alone.
Now for the vacuuming phase, I use this carpet tool that's a wider angled nozzle, but I like to use the smaller one because one, you get an extra, you don't get as much airflow through it, but you get a higher velocity, and it does help with getting into the different, nooks and crannies in those corners that really the wider one won't do as good of a job. So I try to stick with the tinier one as much as possible, especially when it comes to getting into the grooves of seats. But then when it comes to wider areas, that's where those larger nozzles come into play. Now for this car, I did luck out that the actual carpet on the inside was well protected with the floor mats, so there wasn't any carpet cleaning that needed to be done on the inside carpet except for the floor mats. We'll be extracting those later on, but definitely make sure you vacuum underneath the wheel well where your foot pedals are. Make sure you get in up underneath closer to the dashboard. There's a lot of dirt that can kind of get collected in those areas, so make sure you get those cleaned, and then we'll be cleaning those pedals later on as well.
I wonder what went wrong today, eh? Why do I feel like I linger between the words to say, eh? To say the words to remember. Now we're here to take control over your body and over your soul. We're gonna take back everything and lose it all. Lose it all. Lose it all.
Now, if any of you actually are in the market to buy a Urus or in that price range, it's honestly one of the most capable cars I've actually ever driven and would love to own one day if I ever get the opportunity, just because honestly you can fit 5 people in the car. It has a huge trunk and it's fast as hell. It's one of the coolest cars I've ever driven, and honestly, like I mentioned in the previous video when I did the Urus the first time, yeah, I'm truly in love with this one in particular because it has catless downpipes, it's got a tune, and it apparently is making like 800 plus horsepower, and it's an insane car, and it makes the coolest noises as ever. So yeah, definitely recommend picking one up if you ever have the opportunity. I'll definitely let you know if I ever do, if that ever does happen.
Now we won't go back home today, eh? Until the very last hour. We still got a few more days to slay, eh? It's gonna get
Now with all the floor mats vacuumed up, including the rear one, we're going to be using my carpet cleaning solution sprayed on here, which initially you can see all this sudsy foam stuff, and that's because I had some lingering old, carpet cleaner inside of it, so that's why it was extra foamy. But you can see now that I'm spraying it on, it's not as foamy, so that was my own mistake, and that's why it took me extra long to extract this floor carpet, but it was the dirtiest one, so it worked out. But using my drill brush to kind of agitate those fibers, get all that loosened up dirt to the surface, so that way my extractor can do the best job possible at removing as much dirt and much, salt, road grime, whatever's on the bottom of people's shoes, getting that all extracted and making these carpets look like new.
I wonder what went wrong today, eh? Why do I feel like I linger between the words to say, eh? To say the words to remember.
And one little extra detail that you can do to make your carpets look that much better is make sure you put in those carpet lines. I do these really quickly because, you can spend a ton of time making sure those carpet lines are perfectly, even and everything else like that. But honestly, I've found that the faster I do it, the better they look, instead of trying to do them slow, because when you do them slow, I feel like I always end up, overthinking it, messing it up, and just doing it fast always seems to work out better. So do carpet lines. I think it's a nice little added touch that makes your car look that much better once you get back in and out of it after a detail. And if you're ever looking for any of the products that I use in my videos, whether it's my extractor, any of my sprays, or any of my tools that I use, I always link those in the description box below for you guys to check out.
You got me feeling alright. Whenever I'm around you, baby.
When it comes to any plastic floor pans in your car, whether you have WeatherTech, liners or WeatherTech, floor mats, any of those plastic rubber floor mats, I always just spray with the same carpet cleaner solution because it is a mild cleaner. I use my drill brush once again, and then I just use my vacuum or my, extractor to vacuum as much of the liquid up as possible, and then just dry it with a microfiber towel. I recommend anybody having plastic liners in their car over carpet floor mats because it just makes cleanup so much easier, especially if it's a daily driver. If it's not a daily driver, then it's a different story, but definitely recommend them if it's a daily driver or you have kids. Now for all the interior panels, I'm using my extra plush microfiber towels. I love using these ones particularly because the pile is so thick that it does help with getting into all those little grooves without having to use a detailing brush to like the 10th level. And then I'm using my interior detailing spray to clean the panels, but also it does apply a UV protectant that helps keep it clean and also protect it from UV rays. I would say the hardest part of this detail is this little area right here that I'm using my brush on. The dirt kind of gets stuck underneath those little metal brackets in between each button, separating them. It just kind of makes it really hard to get any of the smudges out completely, so it takes a little bit extra time, but it does look cool, and it kind of makes it look like a Lambo, to be honest. My favorite thing about this interior detailing spray I use is, one, it's a mild cleaner, but it also protects the interior with a UV protectant. It also doesn't leave it anything slimy or slippery, so that's why it's a good product to use pretty much anywhere inside the car, especially the steering wheel. I know you guys have seen my videos where I do these super nasty dirty cars, and I'll honestly say it's almost harder to do a mildly clean car like this that's not overly dirty, because when you go through the detail, you're looking for every little piece of dirt, whereas when you're doing a super dirty car, it's really, really obvious where the hard spots are or the troublesome spots. Whereas a car like this, you almost have to hunt for the dirt and hunt for that little extra detail to make sure that it's perfectly clean in every little area to make that much more of a difference at the end of the detail. Now for the leather seats, these ones aren't actually dirty pretty much at all. They just need to be vacuumed and then reconditioned. And the conditioner is going to help with making sure the seats are pliable, the leather is conditioned and has that moisture back into it so it doesn't crack. But also it regains that color that it had when it was brand new. And when you apply it, it does have that shine to it that some people don't like. But once it does dry, and you'll see in the after shots, it gives it more of that, you know, dark matte finish that you would get when the car was new. Now for the final step in the detail, it's using my, I use this tool from Invisible Glass. It's this reach tool that helps a ton, especially with windshields and rear glass inside of a sedan in particular. But using my glass cleaner and my reach tool to get all the windows clean, and then using a clean microfiber towel at the end to go over any of the chrome, any of the black, you know, shiny finish, any of the mirrors, any of the displays, making sure all of those are cleaned and wiped down with a clean, fresh microfiber towel. I want to say thank you to all of you that are subscribed or the notifications turn on. You guys that watch these videos first, make sure you click the video as soon as it goes out, is what makes this channel possible and makes these videos even happen. So thank you guys so much for your support. Make sure you check out Fox Clean to pick up your detailing supplies. I have my spray line coming out really soon, and all of the supplies coming back into stock. So I apologize for the delay on that, but make sure you guys turn on those notifications if you haven't already. Smash the subscribe down below for more videos like this. And thank you guys so much for watching today, and I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys in the next video.